critical that the public know that, one, this is not a random act.
While he was in prison, he received other charges. He actually was charged and indicted in Lake County for attempted murder, attempted first-degree murder, which took place inside the prison. So he has been out on bond on those charges when we think that this was allegedly committed.
To know that murderers come down through here, I mean, yeah, it's scary.
The search intensifies for the suspect accused in the brutal killings of 4 family members. We have some brand new video to show you of the accused killer as the manhunt continues in Tennessee this morning. Plus, is the death penalty a possibility for the accused killer? Our legal experts weigh in. And Erik Menendez isn't getting the prison furlough that he was hoping for. He is back behind bars after kidney stone surgeries. We're looking ahead to the convicted killer's first ever parole board hearing. Also coming up this hour, Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved. The convicted sex trafficker now transferred to a different prison, and she's doing time with some infamous inmates. Could a deal be on the horizon for her? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. So this is the morning show on Court TV where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. We have a tremendous show planned with outstanding guests. So let's start it off as we always do. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. It should never have happened. The family massacre in Tennessee should never have happened. Suspected killer Austin Drummond shouldn't have been out of jail. He had a pending attempted homicide case, but he was out on bond, awaiting his trial. That's right, somebody thought it would be a good idea to give this violent felon a bond that he could post and then get out. Authorities say that Drummond is also a member of the Vice Lords gang. And after his trial for aggravated robbery, he made threats to the jurors. So who in their right mind would give this dangerous animal a bond? Well, this kind of case is exactly why I want to be a magistrate judge when I retire from TV someday. Because those decisions at that level can have deadly consequences. That gangbanger should have been held without any bond. We're talking attempted homicide here. We're not talking about stealing a pack of gum. Homicide victims Courtney Rose, Adriana Williams, James Wilson, and Braden Williams should be alive today. I pray to God that that animal is captured fast. And if he did what investigators say he did, I hope that prosecutors will seek the death penalty. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Were you scared? Is that why you did all this stuff?
Kind of, yeah. I was definitely intimidated. Intimidated. Just
Scared for your life?
He's pretty big.
In Montana, the state's expected to rest its case today in the return mail murder trial for defendant Jordan Palmer. Court's going to resume at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. In Georgia, we've got opening statements expected this morning in the dismembered wife murder trial. Defendant Nicholas Casotis is accused of murdering and dismembering his wife, Mindy. That's going to get underway at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And opening statements also expected in Florida at 9 a.m. for the revenge mom murder trial for defendant Sheila A.G. She's accused of helping her son murder 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims at a Home Depot. Her first trial, you might remember, ended in a mistrial over a jury member doing crossword puzzles during testimony. How lovely. Right now, let's go to our top story for you. Convicted siblings Lyle and Erik Menendez are back in the headlines ahead of their parole board hearing that's coming up in just a couple weeks.
Can you answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, it was you telling Lyle what?
My dad had been molesting me. There was no reason to lie. Clearly, he was coming to me, wanted me to do something about it.
Erik Menendez back in prison this morning after he was recently hospitalized. The 57-year-old had surgery following complications from kidney stones. Erik and his brother Lyle have been serving a life sentence after being convicted of the murders of their parents, Kitty and Jose. The murders happened back in 1989, and the court recently resentenced the brothers to 50 years to life, making them immediately eligible for parole. They're scheduled to appear before the state parole board on August 21st. If deemed eligible for parole, Governor Gavin Newsom must review the decision before these guys are ever released. So what can we expect from the Menendez brothers now? Will they be free soon? Let's ask our legal eagles. I have in the studio with me attorney Mark Begno and joining us remotely, attorney Dave Ehrenberg. Great to have you both on the show today. All right, let's take some bets here. Are these guys getting out anytime soon? Mark, what do you say, please?
I think likely yes. You know, you've got folks who've been in custody for quite a long time, and it's my understanding that they've been, I don't know about model prisoners, but I don't think that they've got a lot of disciplinary reports, have a long disciplinary history. That's one of the things that we look at a lot when considering parole for folks. Also, they committed these offenses when they were very young, and that is also another thing that the parole board is likely to take into consideration. You know, there's a lot of scholarship on the fact that when people are 18, 21 years old, their brains aren't as developed as somebody who's older. And so there are reasons that we don't, for example, you know, have very severe punishments for younger people. I think all of that's going to be considered by the parole board, and my money's on them getting paroled.
Ooh, I love your analysis. I hope it doesn't happen, but you know, you work through logic that makes sense here, Mark. I know this is a big push, as we know. Dave Ehrenberg, your prediction for us, please. What do you say?
Well, I agree with both of you. Mark, I agree with you that I do think they're going to get out early. And Julie, I agree with you that I wish it weren't so, because you know, they brutally murdered their parents while their parents were sitting there, backs turned to them, watching TV, eating ice cream. And although there is evidence that Jose perhaps committed sexual abuse against his son, what about Kitty? You know, the fact that they brutally murdered Kitty, and as she was trying to crawl away, they went back outside and reloaded and brutally murdered her with so much blood that the cops thought it was a mob hit. So, yeah, I don't have much sympathy for them, but I do think they're going to get out early. It's in the parole board's hands now, along with the governor, and it seems like there's a lot of momentum. Good for them. They've got Kim Kardashian on their side, because others in their similar situation would probably be forgotten.
You know, Dave, you're so right. You're so right. And I'm so glad you said the momentum, because it is there. There's a Menendez mania, as we know, that's been taking place. And some people who weren't even alive when these killers went to prison for these crimes are champions for them right now. Let's hear from Mark Garagos. He is representing the Menendez brothers. He gave a press conference. This is the day that they got resentenced. So this was quite a moment of celebration for them. Here we go.
On a day like today, that redemption is possible. And to those you saw X-rated talk today, you saw kind of the ridiculous nature of the cross-examination. You can turn anything on its head. The fact is, the Menendez brothers have done remarkable work, and today is a great day after 35 years.
Okay, Mark Begno, talk to me a little bit, please, about this Menendez mania. What do you think this comes from, that people are, you know, sympathetic to these guys? I mean, I just can't understand it, but it's there, and you know, we all have a right to our opinions. What do you think has contributed to that?
I mean, I think that the revelation that there is credible evidence that there was child sexual abuse when they were children, I mean, I think that has really changed the score. That was not a defense that they were allowed to present at their retrial where they were convicted. And I think that when you look at it, that this was a material factor that went into what happened. Whether you consider it justification, whether you consider it mitigation, it does matter. And I think the fact that this was not heard by the jury that convicted them, and that this is something that is credibly being reported on now, is a material fact that matters and is bringing this to the light.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I want to play a clip from Nathan Hochman, the new district attorney. We know George Gascon, the former DA, was inclined to recommend resentencing, inclined to support the brothers' release. DA Hochman, not the case. Let's listen.
With respect to them, the key issue of exhibiting insight, full insight into their crimes, and completely accepting responsibility for their actions. This is where the Menendezes, like Sirhan, also fall short.
Okay, Dave Ehrenberg, I want to ask you about the DA's office and how they handled this. You have run an office in Palm Beach County, Florida, and so tell me how you think, Dave, how do you think Nathan, his name is leaving me, Nathan Hochman handled this when he took office and then he took time to review things? Do you think he handled it appropriately and dug in fully enough to the background?
I think so, Julie. I like this Nathan Hochman because you remember he replaced George Ghislaine, who was a George Soros-backed criminal justice reformer, and there was a lot of buyer's remorse in the area, and they decided to replace Ghislaine with this more law and order prosecutor. And he then said, if we're going to let these folks out early, these two brothers out early, at the very least, they should show remorse and contrition and own up to it. Now, I must say that there were some statements at the end that did show that the brothers at least went farther than they did before as far as showing contrition. But I'm with Nathan Hochman that the priority should be the victims, not the defendants when you're the prosecutor. That's something that the previous prosecutor got wrong. It seemed like he stood up more for the defendants rather than the victims. So I think he's doing this job right. He should hold them to account. And I think the momentum, as you said, is where it is, and they're going to get released, but not because of lack of trying by this prosecutor.
I really love your analysis, Dave. And that's what you want if you're in the prosecutor's office. Mark, you know that, of course, they want to protect the record, protect the public, and at least he can say if anything bad happens, look, I tried to keep these guys in. I was opposed to it. Everybody knows that. So let's talk about what's next. So a couple weeks, their parole board hearing. Mark Begnaud, how do you expect this to go for them? Do you think this is going to go well? Do you think the parole board will approve release this first go around?
So, I mean, obviously none of us have a crystal ball, but if I'm wagering that they get paroled this round. They've been in prison for a long time. There is this movement and there is all of this new information that has come to light. I think that all of that weighs in balance of the parole board releasing him. That's where my money is, but reasonable minds may differ.
Yeah, and who knows? Dave, what do you think? The California Parole Board, do you think they may take some time with this? Do you think they may say, not this time, maybe next time? What do you think may happen in August?
I think probably they do move ahead and vote to release him at this first meeting rather than delay it because that momentum is there. It's going to happen. So I think probably. Now, I don't know the composition of the parole board. I don't know their politics or their past, but it's tough to stand in the way of this freight train coming down the tracks, which is to let them free as soon as possible.
Yes, so true. And last quick question. Do we think they're going to be dangerous if they're out? Let's say in 2 weeks they do vote to release them. Should we be scared? What do you think, Mark?
I don't think so. I mean, look, I don't want to, ignore the fact that they did commit murder. I mean, that's, they were convicted of that. That's, there's no question there. But this certainly strikes one as a one-time kind of a situation. And you do see a lot of statistics on that. A lot of murders are more kind of one-time things rather than the type of thing that has a lot of a recidivism element to it. So I don't think so, but I certainly also wouldn't want them babysitting my kid.
Thank you for that. Thank you for being so honest, Mark. I love it. Dave, what do you think? Yeah, would you let one of the Menendez brothers walk your dog?
Yeah. I agree with Mark again. Yes, yes, because I don't have children yet. So yes, I would want them watching my dog, walking my dog, and I'd cross the street if I saw him coming at me. But at the same time, they're not going to commit murder again. This was a one-off. This was something that was so disgusting, brutal, horrific. They targeted their parents for a reason. They're not going out there and holding up a convenience store. No, they're not a threat to the community anymore. It's just not complete justice because they got life in prison, and they should serve life in prison. But I do not think they will recidivate. They will not commit more murders moving forward.
You guys are awesome. Awesome analysis. Dave, Mark, stand by, please. We'll hit a break. Coming up next, here's what's up on opening statements.
A unanimous jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of one of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children, crimes that she committed with her longtime partner and co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstein. The road to justice has been far too long.
Ghislaine Maxwell moved from prison to Club Fed with some fellow well-known inmates. We'll talk about whether the move could mean a potential deal. And a massive manhunt underway in Tennessee after 4 family members were killed and a baby abandoned. This morning, brand new surveillance video of the suspect. Covering the country's biggest trials before we bring you inside the courtroom. Plus, the true crime cases you want to know more about in our daily spotlight.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Saturday nights on ION
Is our night.
Let's go! Double headers every Saturday at 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern. The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long.
I also want to take this opportunity to thank all the many hundreds of people who have sent messages of support.
Jeffrey Epstein's partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell, has been quietly moved to a new prison facility in Texas that many refer to as Club Fed, and she's got some famous fellow inmates there with her. Her controversial transfer is what's trending this morning in true crime. Maxwell serving a 20-year prison sentence for crimes relating to her ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, some people are calling this move to Texas unprecedented, considering she was convicted of sex trafficking, which is a very serious offense. 2 other high-profile inmates are also at that facility. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Jennifer Shaw is serving 6.5 years for a telemarketing scheme. And biotechnology entrepreneur Elizabeth Holmes, who was convicted of fraud and conspiracy. Theranos was the company. She was sentenced to 11 years. But crimes, not sex trafficking crimes, right? Serious crimes these ladies did, but not what Maxwell did. So some people are wondering, did she get a deal to be moved to this low security facility? Let's bring back in criminal defense attorney Mark Bagno, former prosecutor, currently criminal defense attorney Dave Ehrenberg, and former NYC corrections officer Elias Hussamadeen. Good morning to you all. Okay, so why was she moved? It just seems like without warning, but right after the conversation with the DOJ. Elias, let me start with you. Does this strike you as odd?
I think it strikes everybody as odd. Moving her makes sense. If an inmate's life is being threatened, we move the inmate. But usually if you're in max and we move you to max. We don't move you from max to minimum or to a federal place. It seems strange. It seems a little fishy that they would actually do this. And smells like a deal.
Smells like a deal. Yeah, Elias, I think you're right. Mark Bagno, what do you say? Does it smell like a deal is going on to you?
1,000% this is a deal. Let's be clear, Ghislaine is not eligible to serve time at this facility. The Bureau of Prisons publishes their standards online for how they classify people and how they put people in different facilities. She's not eligible based on the offense to go there. And so there is no other thing that could have happened other than DOJ, Trump administration, somebody stepping in and telling Bureau of Prisons, hey, she's got to go to minimum security, because they wouldn't put her there otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Oh, excellent points, Mark. Thank you. This security level, even lower than the one she was at before. It wasn't a high security facility she was at in the first place, but now she's really enjoying life, I think. Dave Ehrenberg, what do you say, please?
Well, what interesting timing. Right after she spent 2 days with the number 2 person at the Department of Justice, Todd Blanche, who was Donald Trump's defense lawyer previously, she was then moved from a low security prison to a minimum security prison, what you correctly called Club Fed. So, of course, there was some sort of arrangement here. I think what happened was, after 2 days of questioning, the lawyer for Ghislaine Maxwell said, okay, can you at least do us a solid and move her to this facility? That's where she should go. And that's what they did. And meanwhile, President Trump is still being ambiguous about a pardon for her. So they want her to speak up and to exonerate President Trump from any involvement with Epstein's sex crimes. And at the same time, in their mind, they want her to point the finger at certain prominent Democrats like Bill Clinton and Bill Gates to use that as a political cudgel. That's what this is about. She is being rewarded for her cooperation.
Appreciate it, Dave. Really appreciate the analysis. We have some club-fed facts to share with everybody. So the Bureau of Prisons classifies prison camps such as this one, Camp Bryan, as minimum security institutions, the lowest of the 5 security levels in the federal system. Such facilities have limited or no perimeter fencing. Low security facilities such as FCI Tallahassee have double fenced perimeters and high staff to inmate ratios than the prison camps. And we looked at some of the commissary items that she can now buy. She can buy some oil of Olay products, scented oils, a crochet kit, a sewing kit, and even get a Brita pitcher for her water. Elias Hussamadeen, how vacation-y is a prison camp like this one?
By all standards, federal facilities like this, it's not even jail, to be very honest with you. I mean, if they want to walk out, they can literally just leave and walk out. There's minimal security there, actually, what I've been reading, the fear of some of the other inmates or people in the federal facility, to me, they have a right to have this concern because the level of security is nowhere near what the level of security is in any other maximum security facility. So, I mean, they get up, they have coffee, they take a walk, they can, it's like being home with an ankle bracelet. So they have a right to be concerned about their own safety. She actually should be concerned about her safety as well if there's been threats against her life, and now we're putting you somewhere where the security is lax or almost non-existent.
Elias, this perspective from you is so helpful to really know how much of a sweetheart deal this seems like. Even though we don't have official confirmation of a deal, we all agree it sounds like something's cooking. Does she deserve it? I think is the other big question we want to ask you all. Does she deserve this deal after what she did? Dave Ehrenberg, let me start with you. Your thoughts, please.
She's the devil's accomplice. Keep in mind what she did. Not only did she assist Jeffrey Epstein in recruiting and grooming girls for this sex trafficking operation, but then she participated herself. She's been credibly accused of actually participating in these sex acts, and then she lied about it. Remember, in 2020, she was charged with perjury because in a deposition under oath, she said she had never seen Jeffrey Epstein engage in any sexual activities with underage girls. Of course that was a lie. So why are we believing her now? She's a liar. She's a sex trafficker. She's a convicted felon. She should be nowhere near Club Fed, and she should fill out her 20-year sentence in a regular facility like it was intended.
Yes, yes, Dave, preach, my friend. Love everything you just said. I want to ask about these victims, because we know that they feel very unsatisfied with the way this has all gone down and feel like they didn't get justice with Epstein and now with Maxwell. I'm sure people are furious about this. Mark Begnaud, let me ask you, legally, did anybody have any obligation to ask the victims if they have an objection to this move of prisons for her?
Julie, I know that in some states and in some situations there are kind of victim rights that exist. There's a crime, in Georgia where I practice, we have a crime victims bill of rights. But when we talk about something as granular as somebody moving from one facility to another, that's not the kind of thing that, at least under the statute, that victims and their families would have, the ability to weigh in on. However, anybody actually making these decisions certainly should be considering the victims, should be reaching out to the victims, should be getting their input when making a decision like where somebody's being housed. And certainly if there's going to be some type of a deal that has more than her just going to Club Fed for a little while, the victims should be given input there.
A perfect point to end on. Mark Begnaud, thank you so much for that. We'll continue reporting anything else we learn about Ms. Maxwell. I have to say goodbye and a big thank you to two of our guests, Dave Ehrenberg and Elias Hussamadeen. Thank you both so much for being on the program this morning. We'll see you soon. Mark Begnaud is coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, here's what's coming up.
He is considered armed and dangerous. This is why we're advising the public not to engage with him, to call us if you see him, If you have information about his whereabouts, to reach out.
The suspect in the 4 family murders in Tennessee still at large this morning. Law enforcement urging people to be cautious. We'll bring you the very latest in the manhunt next.
There was an act after the event that we believe shows some humanity. And so we're appealing to that piece, as inhumane as the situation is. But we're appealing to that within this individual to come to us and tell us what happened, right? Let us work through this and figure out what happened.
As the main suspect continues to be sought after in Tennessee this morning, it seems that police now are getting some leads. They've got some new images of Austin Drummond, while a 3rd arrest has also been made in the case. So Drummond, as you see here, captured on home security camera late Sunday night. Investigators released these images of the 28-year-old wearing camouflage and carrying a black rifle. Drummond was spotted in Jackson, Tennessee, which is just under 80 miles away from where the 4 murders took place. In a statement via X, police are urging the public to remain vigilant because they believe Drummond is still in the area. The bodies of 4 adult victims were found in a wooded area in Lake County, Tennessee, and an abandoned baby was thankfully found safe on somebody's front lawn in Dyer County, Tennessee, which is approximately 45 minutes away. This is a picture of all of the victims here. This is just dreadful what happened. And on Monday, there was some more progress made in the way of another arrest. A 3rd person was arrested and charged with being an accessory to the killings. So how did these 3 accomplices allegedly help? And how is this search going to be continuing this morning? We're going to take a look at Mr. Drummond's path, according to some of the key locations police have put out, and also his criminal past. How dangerous is this guy? Let's bring in the sheriff in Erie County, Pennsylvania, Chris Campanelli, and private investigator from Black Ops Private Investigations. He's also a former NYPD officer, and both of these gentlemen are military veterans. We thank them for that. Thank you both for being on the program today. Let's start with how dangerous this guy is. We have a little bit of a look at his criminal past. Aggravated robbery at the age of 17. After he was convicted in the case, he threatened to go after the jurors, and then he also tried to kill somebody in prison. That was the attempted murder charge, according to officials. And then when he was done with his prison sentence, he was transferred to the county to face that charge and was given a bond. So the bond, it was a $100,000 bond. He had a dope case too, a $30,000 bond. They combined them in Tennessee for $130,000, and it was a percentage bond, 10%. So he put up $13,000 and was out. Manuel Gomez, we talked about this yesterday. You were pretty fired up about this, the fact that he was given any bond in this situation. How bad of a guy are we talking about here?
Well, we're talking about, in my opinion, that he's one of the worst dangers to society right now. He's walking around with it appears to be like an AR-15 type of assault rifle. And if you look at the picture when he's walking, it has a military-sized magazine, which means that this gun that he's carrying can shoot anywhere between 50 to 100 bullets. You'll see the square. It's a box-shaped black box on the bottom of the gun. That's the magazine well. This makes him extremely dangerous, and he's prepared to kill many people. That's what that gun's capability is.
Manuel, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'm convinced he is dangerous and a major threat to society here. Let's pray he's captured fast. Sheriff Campanelli, this is what I want to talk to you about, the search efforts for the capture. We have a map I would love to show you. Some of the key locations law enforcement have pointed out. It appears this guy is heading south. So the murders occurred in Tiptonville, Tennessee. The baby was found abandoned in Tigrit, Tennessee. And then Austin Drummond was spotted on security cameras in Jackson, Tennessee. And so here it seems like there's been a little bit of a progression going southward. How does the search match up with a guy like this, Sheriff? In other words, what should the search teams be doing in order to surround this guy and make sure law enforcement stays safe too in capturing him.
Well, you know, I think they have to concentrate on that last spot that he was seen on the video camera, the home video camera. They need to get some kind of perimeter around this individual. He is absolutely a dangerous individual. If you're walking around in camouflage with a mask on and an AR-15 style weapon, you're not out to do good things. So, I mean, I think they have to urge the public in those areas that, you know, don't get involved. Vigilantism is what needed. The law enforcement have the equipment, the training, and the ability to get this guy. It's just going to be a matter of time.
Sheriff, thank you for that. Yeah, the perimeter, get around this guy. And we know he's a bad guy. Manuel, another thing we learned about in his past, he is a confirmed member of the Vice Lords gang. I know you're very familiar with gangs and gang activities. Tell me, what other component does that fact add in here?
Well, again, the Vice Lord gang is also known for murders and for blackmailing people and for extorting them. He is highly, highly dangerous, and he's desperate. This man has been out on the run for days. He's looking for shelter. He's looking for food. Everyone out there, lock everything, because this guy will come in your house and he will take over it. You have to be ultra, ultra, ultra aware of everything. No one in that whole area is safe. They need to really be sleeping with their guns.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Manuel. And Sheriff Campanelli, would love to ask you about that. For people in the public who are feeling uneasy this morning, and rightfully so, in Tennessee, what advice would you have for them, please?
Honestly, I think they have, like I said, they have to be vigilant. They have to pay attention to their surroundings and be aware of what's going on. Absolutely keep everything locked and secured. I mean, even if it's to the point where you're letting your dog out, you know, do it as quickly as you possibly can. This is, like Manuel said, this is a very, very dangerous individual. And if he's got a lot of gang connections, I mean, that makes him twice as dangerous, because you don't know, you know, in that area, if they have, you know, sections of that gang that are in that area, you know, they'll be there to help him too. So they have to be extra, extra, extra careful.
Oh, that's a great point. Might he be looking out for help? Oh, I love that point, Sheriff. Manuel, thoughts on that? Do we think that he may try to reach out to fellow gang members for assistance at this point?
Well, I agree with the sheriff 100%. Absolutely, he will. And they've already arrested 2 other people, a girl named Deidre, for providing assistance to him as well. So yes, he's going to reach out to the only thing that he has right now, and that is his friends and gang members that are going to assist him and shield him. But the fact of the matter is, Julie, what even makes him more dangerous, and when I was doing research on this case, I also found out that the drug conspiracy charges that he had in jail also go back to the correction officers in Lake County. So this guy's got many reasons and many people to be with, but that's a wild card that I know is going to be played out at the end, where he's going to be able to drop dime on who he was dealing drugs with in jail.
Manuel, thank you for that. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation says the reward's now up to $32,500 after Crime Stoppers added in another $2,500. Sheriff, I want to ask you about your experience with tips. How valuable will the public be for investigators looking for this guy?
The public will be invaluable. They will be the ones that actually solve this case. They are the ones that are on the ground, boots on the ground. They're the ones with the cameras on the doorbells. This kind of information and intelligence is invaluable to law enforcement. They will definitely be the ones that get the big ball rolling, and then we'll take over and squeeze him into that perimeter, like I said, and then eventually he'll be hungry, cold. He'll be ready to give up.
Yeah, you're so right. You guys are awesome. Sheriff Chris Campanelli in Erie County, Pennsylvania, and private investigator Manuel Gomez with Black Ops Private Investigators in New York. Thank you both so much for weighing in. We'll continue the conversation on this case. And as we head to break, we want to remember the victims, of course. We're going to continue talking about this case and what will eventually happen to the suspect, but let's put the focus where it belongs. James Wilson was 21 years old. Adriana Williams, 20 years old. They're the baby's parents. The baby is alive this morning. Thank God for that. 15-year-old Braden Williams, the brother to Adriana, is deceased. And Adriana and Braden's mom, Courtney Rose, only 38 years old, she's deceased as well. We'll be right back.
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible. Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot.
Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind Murder Trial. Live coverage begins August 19th, only on Court TV.
It's critical that the public know that, one, this is not a random act.
While he was in prison, he received other charges. He actually was charged and indicted in Lake County for attempted murder, attempted first-degree murder, which took place inside the prison. So he has been out on bond on those charges when we think that this was allegedly committed.
To know that murderers come down through here, I mean, yeah, it's scary.
Now, for what's tipping the scales of justice, we're continuing our coverage this morning of the manhunt for accused killer Austin Drummond. He is said to have committed 4 homicides. And police continue making arrests in the case. So far, 3 people locked up accused of being an accessory after the fact. But Drummond is still at large.
The investigation, including efforts to identify and apprehend a suspect or suspects, remains active and ongoing. Local residents are asked to remain vigilant and report any information to local authorities.
This happened in Tennessee, a state where the death penalty is still active. So, where does this put the legal case against Drummond? Might prosecutors already be thinking about pursuing this as a capital case? Let's bring in a very seasoned criminal defense attorney. He also does a lot of federal civil rights work and has done death penalty work as well. An illustrious career you have had, Mark Begno. It's so great to have you in the studio to weigh in on this. So, do you think this guy ought to be considered a candidate for capital punishment if what police are saying is true?
Well, I don't think he should be considered a candidate for capital punishment. I don't think we should have capital punishment, but I think that he will be considered a candidate for capital punishment. You know, he would be eligible for capital punishment. All states that have the death penalty allow for death penalty in murder cases with particularly egregious factors. And this, you know, obviously hits, you know, the number of victims alone hits, you know, where you need to be allowed to seek the death penalty. But bear in mind that seeking the death penalty is a decision made by the district attorney in that area, and district attorneys are elected. And so it oftentimes has a political, I guess, flavor to it. You know, you have prosecutors who are very out in front talking about how we will seek the death penalty in a lot of cases. That's what they run on. And so that can be, you know, kind of part of the decision making that you know, at least is in behind the scenes when a prosecutor is making a decision. You have other prosecutors who just won't seek the death penalty. And so it's going to be the DA in this area that makes the decision. It's obviously in the news. And so this DA is going to be considering the fallout from the decision in, you know, kind of considering everything and deciding whether to seek death.
Right. No, appreciate it, Mark. It's a lengthy process, as you well know, a very involved process, and an unpleasant process. And some people feel that, you know, it's maybe a greater punishment to be alive and die in prison and have a death by prison kind of situation versus capital punishment. Tennessee does things by lethal injection. How early, if prosecutors decide to seek it, do you think they'll announce it to the public? So let's say they decide to go the route on these facts, which you've acknowledged, even though you don't agree with it personally, just legally, we can say, based on the law in Tennessee, if he did 4 homicides and kidnapped a baby and abandoned a baby, then he would be someone that potentially could have these attachments to the case. How soon do you think that decision might be announced? Do you think we could expect something like that off the bat at the time of capture even?
My guess is yes, but I've seen it go both ways. I have seen situations where you have prosecutors who will announce right at the beginning, they have enough information and the cameras are on, and again, there is a political, side to this. And so I've seen prosecutors who will announce early, and I've seen prosecutors who will announce a year into, working up a case, where they are, considering perhaps, okay, maybe, this is a case where the person will plead guilty and it'll get wrapped up quickly, and the possibility of a death announcement is something that weighs into the math. You'll see prosecutors who just have to do a longer investigation before they can make the decision. So anything's open. My guess here is, especially based on the amount of press that we have on this, the amount of coverage that we have on this, that the prosecutor makes a decision one way or another in the earlier stages.
I really appreciate that, Mark. Let's take a look at Mr. Drummond's bond. This is something, as you know, I'm pretty fired up this morning about how he was even out. So we have the bond breakdown that we can put up here. And so while he was in the prison, he was a bad guy. He was not behaving himself, had a terrible prison record. The worst things to happen, drug offense in the prison, and then also tried to kill somebody in the prison, according to officials. And so they totaled up his bond. $130,000 would be the total here on these charges, and it was $130,000 at 10% versus a straight bond. Quick little bond school class, straight bond, you'd have to pay that whole amount straight up. Percentage bond, you pay a percentage, the bail bondsman puts up the rest, and it's a quicker path to release. Now, we reached out to the DA, the district attorney's office, and their position was they don't object to a bond unless it's a death penalty case. And so we have the magistrate judge apparently setting that bond at whatever the magistrate judge thought was appropriate. The DA is staying silent. And now here we have him out. Every jurisdiction is different for viewers across the pond. As you know, Mark, we have a lot of viewers in the United Kingdom, and every state is sovereign here in America. And I know where I practiced in Pennsylvania and I was a prosecutor, I would have been jumping up and down. And if I had not lodged a big objection to this type of bond in this case, my supervisors would have had me in the office really quickly. What's your thoughts? And again, you have a very different perspective because you're a long-time criminal defense attorney, and you've done public service before going into the private sector where you are now. What do you think about this?
So I will say that I do share your surprise with what you heard from the DA's office, because I've never, come across a DA where they're only going to be objecting to bonds at that high a level. I am used to DAs, if you hit burglary or higher, they're objecting to a bond and saying, Judge, we object to a bond, but if you're going to set a bond, set a very high bond. I will note, of course, that, I don't know exactly what was presented to this judge when this judge set the bond, how much of the information that we have now about, for example, his behavior in prison was presented to the judge when the judge set the bond. But also bear in mind that, bond is a situation, these are people across the board, people who are getting bonds are people who have not yet been convicted, and it is innocent until proven guilty in this country. And so it is a pretty large step for a judge to say, we are going to hold you in prison or in jail before you've been convicted, sometimes for multiple years. And judges tend to hopefully reserve that to people who, you can see are real threats to the community. Here, I don't know what evidence was presented to the judge. Obviously, and with the DA not objecting, the judge didn't find that there was a significant risk to the community.
Mark, that's such an excellent point, and that's why it's so key for prosecutors and judges at that level to have all the information possible, because if they didn't relate that he's a gangbanger with a terrible prison record and a long history of violent crimes, then you're exactly right. Then we don't know what we don't know. So it is what it is. Mark Begnaud, you've got cases to win. We've got to let you get off to court. Thank you so much for coming in the studio. It's been such a treat to have you, and so wonderful having you at home.